What's going on, guys, and welcome to my review for Until Dawn. This is an adaptation for the video game of the same name that came out all the way back in 2015, and it's coming from director David Sandberg, whose most notable projects are Lights Out, Annabelle Creation, as well as both Shazam films. And essentially what this film is about is you have the character of Clover, played by Ella Rubin, who, along with a group of her friends, are in search for her missing sister, and when they discover her last known location, they find themselves trapped in a time loop of continuously dying, and the only way to escape said time loop is to survive until dawn. You get it? Until Dawn, name of the movie. Anyway, going into this movie, I can't say it was high on my list in terms of excitement to check it out, because being that it is a horror video game movie adaptation, that immediately sets my expectations pretty low, because even though I know we got The Last of Us going on right now, which is phenomenal, historically the hit rate for these movies and shows that are based off of horror video games is bordering on abysmal. But also, with just the kind of game that Until Dawn is, I didn't really see any merit in making this movie, because the way Until Dawn plays as a video game is already very similar to a movie. I think you could watch a walkthrough of someone playing Until Dawn on YouTube and you would essentially get an Until Dawn movie experience. And so for me, this was a movie that needed to justify its existence, and I wasn't very confident in its ability to do so. But even with all of that, I was still curious enough to give this movie a chance, and I never thought in a million years that I would enjoy a film like the Five Nights at Freddy's adaptation we got a couple of years ago, but that happened, and so I guess anything is possible. But did Until Dawn pull off that surprise, or are we stuck in our own time loop of just awful horror video game movie adaptations? Well, before I answer that, I'd like to ask that while you guys are here, go ahead and give the video a like and subscribe to the channel as well for more movie reviews. Make sure to get down in the comments below and tell me all of your thoughts on Until Dawn, movie and video game. I'd love to hear anything you guys have to say. Now let's get into the review for this movie. So starting with the positives, and the burning question I had for this movie going in was, how are they going to take this video game that is so driven by the choices made by the player and adapt that to a movie that is strictly a viewing experience where obviously the viewers have no input in where the story goes? What they decided to do for this film is strip out all those themes of cause and effect and actions and reactions that the video game is exploring and replace it with a time loop element. And I know that's kind of getting rid of what the essence of the video game is, but if you are going to go in a new direction, I do think it was a cool idea, and pretty much any enjoyment that I got out of this film came from this change. Seeing these characters die over and over again in very horrific and audacious ways is where all of the fun in this movie lies, and I appreciate that this film doesn't take itself too seriously, as a lot of these deaths are done with a very intentional comedic tone, and there were quite a few of these moments that got a genuine laugh out of me. Specifically, there's a moment where they do this kind of found footage style death montage, and it was a really fun sequence, and it was easily my favorite singular moment in the film. I was also happy to see that for the most part, most of the carnage you see in this movie was created using practical effects, and it looks really good. Any CGI that was used isn't overly apparent or an eyesore, and that's always something you have to worry about with modern mainstream horror movies. So credit where credit is due for all the practical gore in this film. I'm always going to love seeing that. Getting into the negatives now, and though I do think the time loop idea was a cool change to make, and I think they did it really well, I would still say that across the board, everything in this movie version of Until Dawn felt like a downgrade from the video game. I don't know why every time someone wants to make a horror video game movie adaptation, they always feel the need to stray so far away from the source material. Resident Evil is the biggest offender when it comes to this. Jesus Christ, how we are in 2025 and we have still yet to get one even okay Resident Evil movie or TV show is baffling to me, but that could be a whole other video on its own. I understand not wanting to just do a simple copy and paste from video game to movie, because I'm sure as a filmmaker that's not the most artistically fulfilling way to go about it, and to do so I'm sure would just feel pointless. Like, why are we even making this, because we have Until Dawn at home? But eventually you start to stray so far that if you were to erase some Easter eggs and tweak some little details here and there, you would have a hard time even knowing this was an adaptation of a video game, and it starts to feel like it's only Until Dawn by name and nothing else. And I think the chunk of your audience that is a fan of the game is not interested in seeing something like that. It's already been mentioned, but The Last of Us HBO series seems to have found the perfect balance between sticking to the source material while also implementing new ideas and making little changes here and there. They do, however, get the benefit of being a TV series that gives you a much longer runtime to explore explore the video game, whereas in a movie, you have to take a 15-hour plus video game and condense it into an hour and 45-minute experience. So they seem to have nailed it on the TV side of things, but the movie side of horror video game adaptations still feel like they're trying to catch up and are still a ways way behind. In terms of where I specifically feel like this movie falls short is, number one, the characters. I didn't care for a single one of them. They either made me feel nothing or just flat out annoyed me. And not to say that the video game doesn't also have some annoying characters, but when you don't have the fun of the gameplay element and you can't control anything that they do, they become a lot harder to digest as characters. I'm not really all too familiar with anybody in the cast here, but they all have their fair share of rough moments when it comes to their performances, especially with line delivery. A lot of them seem to struggle with that. They're not done any favors though. The dialogue and the writing for their characters is laughably bad at times, so it's not all their fault. They weren't helped at all, but it's just another element of the characters in this movie that I just did not enjoy. Secondly, there's a lot of horror subgenres at play here, as each time the characters die, a new type of threat is introduced. So you get all kinds of stuff from slashers to the supernatural to monsters and so on and so on. And when you have that many ideas crammed into your movie, you don't get a lot of time to devote to any individual one. And so you have to resort to just playing the hits, and you can't really deliver us anything of substance from any of them. Maybe this is something that could have been more accurately placed in a negative section of this review, but I think it speaks well to my overall critique on the negative impacts that can be felt on a movie when it strays so far from the source material and how it presented these elements. This area of the film kind of became more of a jack of all trades, masters of none situation, but I found each trade and its implementation to be quite underwhelming. So there you guys have it. Those are all of my thoughts on the film adaptation of Until Dawn. This is an okay horror movie that I think for me personally felt like it was a little worse than it actually is, because as someone who likes a lot of horror video games, I'm just tired of constantly getting these mediocre movies based off of them. But it doesn't do anything offensive or to disrespect the legacy of its source material. It just didn't do anything to add to it. And so once the movie was over, I was just left feeling like, why did we get this? I needed this film to justify its existence, and I just don't think it was able to do so. Instead, it just ended up being another middle of the road experience as both a horror film and a video game adaptation. But I do think there was enough fun that can be had within it that it might be worth you checking out once it is available on a streaming service. However, I would personally recommend you just watch somebody play a walkthrough of the video game on YouTube. It'll take you a little bit more time, but I think overall you will get a better experience out of it than what the movie has to offer. But let me know what you guys think about Until Dawn down in the comments below. Is it something you're looking forward to checking out? If you've already seen it, what did you think about it? How do you think it stacks up to the video game? I'd love to read everything you guys have to say. As always, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel as well for more movie reviews, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.